Welcome to the lesson on the endocrine system, glands, hormones, and disorders, part 1. For this, you're going to need your blue book, and we're taking a look at pages 119 to 122-ish. Yep, 122 in your blue book. And there's an outline in there for you that's already set up for you to just add this information to it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first gland we're going to take a look at is the anterior pituitary gland. It's nicknamed the master gland. This is responsible for 5 different hormones. The first is growth hormone. Growth hormone is responsible for lengthening the long bones. And the long bones, of course, would be your humerus, your femur, for example. And hypersecretion, which you learned in the last lesson, is producing too much of the hormone, results in giantism if this happens from birth. It's called acromegaly if it happens when during your adulthood. If it's hyposecretion, which is producing too little growth hormone, this results in pituitary dwarfism. The next hormone we're going to take a look at is follicle stimulating hormone, and this is responsible for the development of both eggs and sperm. Both hyper and hyposecretion would result in infertility. Luteinizing hormone is responsible for ovulation. So no activity in males, and hyper and hyposecretion would both result in infertility of females. Adrenocorticotropic hormone controls secretion of the adrenal cortex. Both hyper and hyposecretion would cause, respectively, hyper and hyposecretion of the adrenal cortex. The last one we're going to take a look at in the anterior pituitary gland is thyroid stimulating hormone. This controls secretion of the thyroid. Hyper and hyposecretion would cause, respectively, hyper and hyposecretion of the thyroid. So you can see, being the master gland, that this gland controls the secretions in other glands in the body. That's why they call it the master gland. All right, next let's take a look at the posterior pituitary gland. Responsible for 2 hormones. The first is oxytocin. Oxytocin causes uterine contractions during childbirth. So hypersecretion probably doesn't happen because it would just cause more contractions during childbirth. But hyposecretion would cause what's called failure to progress during labor. In other words, the female is having trouble delivering the baby. And this results in either labor being induced by the doctor or ends up being resulting in a cesarean birth, where they have to cut the uterus open to get the baby out. So here's something that's really important. This is the only known hormone which acts by positive feedback. We talked about in our last lesson that almost all the hormones operate on a negative feedback system. This is the only hormone which operates on a positive feedback system. The other hormone in the posterior pituitary is vasopressin. And this is antidiuretic hormone, also known as ADH. This regulates reuptake of water in the kidney. So hyposecretion would cause increased urine volume. Hypersecretion would cause retention of water. Caffeine and alcohol act directly on this hormone, slowing down its production. This is why both are diuretics and cause you to pee more. Okay? All right, let's take a look at our next gland, and we're going to talk about the thyroid. The thyroid controls metabolic rate. We'll start with, thyroid. Thyroxine is a hormone produced by the thyroid that controls metabolic rate. Hypersecretion causes Graves' disease, also known as goiter. This is exothalamus, high blood pressure, and increased pulse rate and weight loss. Hyposecretion causes hypothyroidism, also called myxedema in adults, weight gain, low body temperature, slow pulse rate, low blood sugar, and in children, low thyroxine can cause cretinism. Another hormone produced by the thyroid is calcitonin. And calcitonin regulates calcium balance in the blood and acts to channel calcium out of the blood and into the bone. So hypersecretion would cause tetany, and hyposecretion causes osteoporosis. And so this is something that as people age they have to deal with. As you know, hyposecretion, they lose the ability to produce calcitonin, and which results in osteoporosis and weakening of the bones. The last gland that we're going to take a look at in this lesson is the parathyroid. And only one hormone for this. Parathyroid produces parathormone, and it regulates calcium balance in the blood. It also acts to channel calcium out of the bone and into the blood. So you notice it does the opposite of calcitonin. So hyper and hyposecretion disorders would be opposite of those for calcitonin. Okay? So a hypersecretion would cause osteoporosis, and a hyposecretion would cause tetany. All right, that'll do it for our endocrine system, glands, hormones, and disorders. We have 6 more to do, which we'll do in the next lesson, which will be for tomorrow night.